As much as I liked Hollow Knight, I honestly wasn't that excited for Silksong to come out. And it was mostly because it felt like a doomed sequel. Every time I'd watch streams of different gaming events, all I'd see were people spamming Silksong in the chat, hoping that there would be an announcement, but it never happened. It just became a meme, just like the idea of Bloodborne 2 releasing. Eventually, so much time passed that we either experienced delays or total silence. It ended up feeling like Silksong would end up getting cancelled or stuck in development hell forever. That is, until we got new footage, and an actual release date after 7 years. It felt so unreal that I was still cautious about whether Silksong would be good or not, even on the day it dropped. The hype was so massive that the game's launch literally crashed Steam, PlayStation, Xbox, and even Nintendo servers. It was insane and practically unheard of from an indie game. And the hype completely took over so many gaming communities online. So yeah, I decided to play the game later that day to see what it was like. I had a rough time getting into it, but when it clicked, Silksong ended up taking over my life in the next few days. Now, Hollow Knight's Silksong starts off with Hornet, imprisoned in a cage. She's transported by unknown characters through a wasteland, up until some kind of butterfly lands on her cage and awakens her silk powers, causing her to break free and fall down into an abyss. Hornet wakes up later on, and then you gain control of her. I didn't think that Silksong was impressive when I first started playing it. It just felt like Hollow Knight all over again, except now I'm playing as a girl and enemies hit way harder. Oh, and I can only do diagonal down attacks instead of a normal down attack, causing me to fall off platforms or land straight into enemies with unpredictable movesets. So yeah, I didn't find it too appealing, but I continued playing anyway, wondering when or if the game would actually hook me. What I didn't know was that Silksong was slowly pulling me deeper and deeper into its world as I played, and a lot of it has to do with how it proved me wrong with my expectations. It wasn't just Hollow Knight all over again. It was an ambitious game that had a massive world filled with many characters, quests, and areas to discover. Every time I thought I met all the side characters in the game, I kept meeting even more of them. It didn't take long before I couldn't keep track of who and where everyone was. But the memorable level designs and encounters helped with jogging my memory. So yeah, playing through Silksong felt like I was going through the ultimate Metroidvania, made by just 3 people. It made me realize where those 7 years of development time went. No wait, actually, it made me wonder just how they managed to make the game in 7 years. Yeah. There were many points during my playthrough where I thought, okay, I must have discovered everything by now. My map looks complete. And shortly after, I'd stumble upon another room or even a whole new area. It was pretty crazy. The environments were varied as well. It would go from standard locations that look similar to the first game to completely unique and beautiful levels. I think my only complaint about it is that as fun as exploration was, it wasn't always rewarding. I'd usually just find rosaries, the main currency of the game. It might sound nice at first, but then I quickly realized that the game doesn't give that much to you. At least when I played it during launch. I'd probably just have a couple of rosaries or something, nowhere near enough to afford items and shops. I think an update later on increased the amount of money you get in early areas, but I'm not so sure about later sections in Silksong. I still had to farm rosaries in order to buy stuff, even hours into my playthrough. I had to do that a couple of times because Silksong's difficulty is no joke. Just like I mentioned earlier, Silksong's gameplay is similar to Hollow Knight, so you'll be exploring, platforming, and fighting enemies along the way, with the map slowly revealing itself as you progress through the game. The difference is, Silksong reminds you that it really is a sequel gameplay-wise. The first few enemies, bosses, and even platforming sections humbled me so much. I kept dying over and over again, especially since many enemies, like the normal ones, would knock 2 masks off of my health bar, and a lot of them zip around and purposely move away from you every time you charge into attack, including bosses. My main strategy was just hitting them cautiously and bouncing off the top of their heads over and over again using a downward attack until they were defeated. I did like the enemy variety though. There were so many cool character designs. A lot of them were cute, at least until they attacked me. I do love how there's so much to do in Silksong, especially since they included wishes, side quests that were given by NPCs or are found at quest boards. A lot of them were fetch quests, but they were unique and interesting enough to keep me hooked, even when they got a bit annoying with all the backtracking and challenging fights. I just liked being able to progress through the storyline of certain characters whenever I completed their quest. Something that made the game a bit easier were the tools. There are different kinds of tools in Silksong, with red ones being offensive weapons like knives and throwables. Equipping blue tools gives you passive buffs, and they do things like increase silk regeneration or reduce fire damage, while yellow tools give you effects like being able to track your exact position on the map. There's a crazy amount of these trinkets that you'll find throughout the game, so the tools I mentioned are just on the surface. You can even change your moveset as you unlock more crests, but not every crest has the same amount of tool slots, so you have to manage what tools you equip. And even then, you can only carry a couple of them at once. This is what can make things a bit challenging. You can't just use every tool at your disposal. Just like Hollow Knight, you can only change the tools you've equipped by resting on a bench, so it's tricky if you're nowhere near one. Like if you're outside a boss room, you might have to backtrack a bit. Which brings me to more annoying bits about Silksong. I thought that the enemies were super spongy, and boss fights can feel like they go on for way too long, with multiple phases in between. You can upgrade your weapon eventually though, which helped a lot, but oh god, the path to getting all those upgrades was rough. Like, it's not as straightforward as how other games do it, but I thought it was worth the pain because I would have been in even more pain if I had to push through without them. And sure, there are lots of tools that you can use to defeat enemies, but there were still many fights where it felt like the game was pushing me to the limit. I was at its mercy, since the attack patterns of later boss fights would change and switch around, almost like they're reading my button inputs. It has the same problem that I had with certain FromSoft games and Souls-like titles. Whenever I felt like I was getting used to the patterns of certain bosses after dying a lot, they suddenly switch things up or pull a move that you haven't seen before. I also think that the game can have too much backtracking after you die. Like, depending on where you are, it might take around 5 minutes to get back, assuming that you don't die along the way. I know and love some older games that did the same thing, like Dark Souls, but it just felt annoying and archaic for a 2025 game to do it. I couldn't help but compare it to other games that placed you on your spawn point a few seconds before a boss fight. So yeah, it was painful in Silksong, especially if you keep dying to the same boss or gauntlet. Some of the later gauntlets were very annoying, because you're essentially locked in a room and forced to fight multiple waves of enemies until you succeed. Some of them felt endless and insane to play through. The factors I mentioned about the game, the backtracking, crazy boss fights, gauntlets, and the insane last quarter, makes me want to never play it again. It's strange because I have gone through at least the early hours of Hollow Knight a couple of times throughout the years, but Silksong is just too much for me. I think the only time I'll go back is if there are updates that address the issues that I had, like if the devs added more benches throughout the game, or if certain enemies and bosses didn't deal like 2 to 3 masks of damage. As much as I liked Silksong, I had to take a 1-month break from it at some point because the difficulty spike during the final hours of the game was getting to me. But it took me around 66 hours overall to complete my playthrough. I still think that Silksong is incredible. It's just, I also have a lot of complaints about it. I can't recommend this game to anyone who hasn't played Hollow Knight though, and to anyone who doesn't like hard games. As of this video's release, a new expansion is coming called Sea of Sorrow, and it's completely free. I know I sound sick of Silksong, but I kinda want to try it when it comes out, even if I end up rage quitting after a while. And if it is already released by the time you are watching this, let me know what you guys thought about it. Considering how massive Silksong is, I'm sure you guys already know this, but I'll say it anyway. Hollow Knight Silksong is available now on every platform. Let me know what you thought about the video, and like and subscribe if you like my content. And thank you to my patrons at Patreon for supporting my channel. Thank you for waiting forever for my Silksong video to come out, everyone. A lot has happened since then, but I'm hoping that you guys will look forward to my next video. Late Happy New Year as well to everyone watching this shortly after it was uploaded. I hope you guys are well. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.